It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, ladies and gentlemen, I'll continue to be the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for fearless and trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday on this, the 23rd of February. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please be safe out there. If you can just avoid being on the roads, stay indoors. And while you're at it, like, comment, and share tonight's episode of Real Talk on all of your social media platforms. And again, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right on all of your platforms. And if you've not done so already, take a moment, folks. Again, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. And certainly, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, check out Jersey First and other great content we bring you every single week. Well, let's be honest, folks. I mean, we're pretty much going to be indoors for the next 2 days. So hopefully your refrigerator's stocked and you're able to stream some shows at home, catch up with some paperwork. Whatever you're doing, I'm sure you're on your smartphone, your tablet, your PC, or Mac. Show your support for Jersey First. And trust me, folks, you'll never be disappointed. Again, as we continue to be educating and advocating for the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's always Jersey First TV. And of course, leading the way is yours truly, Fernando Uribe, with brand new episodes of Real Talk live every Monday night here. Check your local listings for start times, of course. And I'll bring you, as always, the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in New Jersey politics and more, folks. It's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? I'm going to have a lot to say this evening. And of course, you know that when it comes to a lot of the silly actors in New Jersey media, academia, higher education, elected officials or activists, you name it, folks, there's no shortage of people I like to sort of call out for all their bullshit. But of course, when we talk about, let's say, for example, bad journalism, well, there's a lot of people to pick from here in New Jersey. Of course, we have, Sleepy Al, Alan Steinberg, Tom Moran, obviously John Van Vliet, certainly Maxie Pizarro, Bob Hennelly, useless women like Jay Lassiter, of course, other useless journalists like Chucky, Charles Style, and Matt Friedman. But folks, when I think of useless on a regular basis, let's be honest, it's easy to come up with Uncle Dave, David Cruz. Yes, as you can see, folks, este cara de come mierda here, as you can see, is always giving me plenty of material with his usual stupidity. And again, since he can't seem to hold down a job, now he thinks he can be somehow a, quote, independent journalist. What a load of bullshit that is from Uncle Dave. But a latest example of his stupidity, I'll sort of discuss openly a little bit later on. And speak about stupidity and useless women in New Jersey. Yeah, folks, well, it's easy to think of someone like Jay Lassiter. And I know, folks, I get it. You might be thinking, Fernando, that's not really a good picture of Jay. And I understand, it may not be easy to decipher that is Jay Lassiter. I know you may not be able to tell because he has something in his mouth. But then again, when doesn't Jay Lassiter have something in his mouth? But that's probably a topic for a different day. But I'll talk about the latest stupidity from Jay Lassiter. And trust me, there's no shortage of stupidity with this crackhead. But we'll talk about it later during final thoughts. And folks, a special comment later. As you can see behind me, I'm a proud New Jersey Devils fan. And of course, the guy to lead Team USA in the Winter Olympics with the golden goal in overtime, of course, has to be a New Jersey Devil. So congratulations to not just the women's team, but the men's team in Italy this past week, winning the gold medals against our neighbors to the north, Canada, both in overtime. Folks, again, shout out to the ladies rocking the red, white, and blue, and shout out to the guys from Team USA. I'll tell you why it's a really special moment for all of us as Americans. More on that during a special comment. Folks, again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here. I can't say it enough since we're all stuck indoors due to this blizzard here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I can't remember a winter being this bad in almost 30 years. But again, hopefully everyone's safe. You're indoors. You're staying warm. And again, we appreciate you making this part of your Monday night viewing. It is election season, folks. And one of the things I like to do during election season is talk to candidates and elected officials and journalists about what's going on during this election cycle here in New Jersey. And certainly the midterms are coming up later this year. but a lot of contested primaries, ladies and gentlemen, obviously here in New Jersey, in all 12 congressional districts here in the Garden State. I want to talk to one of the more interesting candidates in one of the more interesting races due to the retirement, thankfully, of Bonnie Watson Coleman, who, let's be honest, folks, has been so useless in the House of Representatives for years. So good riddance to Bonnie. I mean, esa buena sea parada. But unfortunately, sometimes we have to be careful what we wish for, because obviously the Democrat primary in the 12th congressional district is really competitive. On the Republican side, we have a great candidate running right now in this primary season. I've interviewed him before, and he's a hell of a guy. And he's a guy who I'd like to see win out in CD 12 later on this year. Folks, he's my good friend, and again, a candidate for the House of Representatives in the 12th congressional district here in the state of New Jersey. Folks, he's Gregg Mele, joins us live right now on Real Talk. Gregg, how are you, sir? Welcome back.
Very well, Fernando. How are you? It's good to be back.
Good to see you on here. How are you handling the blizzard down by you?
It's been a shoveling day, so we're taking a little physical breather now and try to use the brain with you. Try to keep
All
up.
right. Well, listen, I'm glad you made some time for me, brother. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And folks, if you're not familiar with the 12th congressional district, it is one of the larger congressional districts in New Jersey. I mean, it encompasses Mercer County, Middlesex County, and Somerset County. So everybody that's not aware, again, a little bit of a civics lesson here, but just to give you a refresher, ladies and gentlemen, for everyone watching at home, in Mercer County, it includes the township of Ewing, Hopewell Township, Pennington, Princeton, Trenton, and West Windsor. In Middlesex County, it includes municipalities such as Cranberry, Dunellen, East Brunswick, Helmata, Jamesburg, Middlesex, Milltown, Monroe Township, North Brunswick, parts of Old Bridge Township, as well as Brownville, Plainsboro, South Brunswick, South River, and Spotswood. And in Somerset County, it also includes Brownbrook, Bridgewater Township, parts of also of Hillsborough Township, which is part of the 7th. Also includes Blackwells, Hillsborough CDP, as well as Belmead. Also Franklin Township, Manville, Millstone, Montgomery Township, North Plainfield, Rocky Hill, South Brownbrick, and one municipality in Union County, Plainfield. Whew, wow, I'm out of breath already here. My goodness.
I was going to say, you got to be tired, right?
That's a lot of towns to cover in CD12, Gregg. Now, again, I've had a chance to talk to you before. I know you've run for office in prior election cycles. What prompted you to run in 2026 in a district where, again, the incumbent, thankfully, has decided to retire? Good riddance to Bonnie Watson Coleman. I can't think of one piece of legislation this woman ever introduced in the House of Representatives that was ever worthwhile. I mean, maybe she renamed the post office after somebody, but I can't think of anything worthwhile with Bonnie. But certainly a lot of Democrats, far left progressives, and we'll get to them in a minute. But when it comes to your campaign, Gregg, what sets you apart, and why are you a better option for voters who maybe want to get away from the status quo in the 12th congressional district?
Well, yeah, the big thing, I mean, and of course, I started talking to folks and starting my campaign before the retirement announcement, just so you know. I had my ideas about Bonnie as well and how to face her, but of course, you know, it's always a little bit more helpful when there's no incumbent. As far as the other Democrats in the race, so far there's only one name I've ever heard of before, and she's got a track record that I can probably deal with okay. I think especially in the cities that are part of the district, the bigger cities, that you know, they are tired of being told for decades, particularly by Bonnie Watson Coleman. She just loved to tell her voters that it was still 1950 and they had no opportunity to succeed. And of course, we've seen over the several decades since how much better it consistently gets for everyone to move ahead. I mean, you know, I think you know, people are looking for someone to just provide more opportunities for people. That's half of the affordability argument that I'm sure we'll hit much more on later. But that is the thing that I think will hit home with a lot of folks who are going to realize that, you know, government should be helping people become self-sufficient. I know for politicians and some in power that that's a dirty word, you know, but you know, that's where I want folks to be. I also think that folks want, you know, no matter what their background, they want the same things. They want safe community. They want affordability again, and also, all the parents want to maintain their parental rights. So those, in a nutshell, are my three main issues that I'm promoting in my campaign, and I think I'll have a lot of resonance there with people in the district, not just Republicans, but across the spectrum.
Well said, Greg. And let me ask you this, though, because certainly it's an election cycle that many analysts, pundits, journalists alike, sort of just throw this usual line out there where, well, it's the midterms, and certainly for the incumbent in office in the White House, it tends to not be a very favorable midterm. We've seen that for as long as I can remember, certainly for Joe Biden, certainly during the first Trump presidency, the first term, certainly during the 8 years of Barack Obama, during the 8 years of George W. Bush, during the 8 years of Bill Clinton, and so on and so forth. So it seems like the midterms tend to be, for example, not an indictment, but maybe a referendum on who's in the White House. And listen, I mean, when you listen to the establishment media in New Jersey, obviously you would think the ratings for President Trump are in the toilet, and that's not the case. There's a lot to brag about when it comes to his economic record. Obviously, gas prices are down. We're drilling domestically. The market is strong. Interest rates have gone down again. We are seeing inflation lower than it's been during the entire last 4 years. We're seeing trade agreements when it comes to other countries, and that's certainly benefiting us. That will, marinate organically as well. Yes, we saw what happened on Friday with the Supreme Court of the United States. Obviously, kind of giving the president a little bit of a humbling moment when it comes to tariffs. But again, it seems like this has been working for the president, and it seems at least that this narrative that the Supreme Court is a rubber stamp, it's bullshit. It just is, because it just seems like Democrats, specifically the progressives and the far left, that's all they want to talk about. That's not the case. But in this election cycle, it might be hard for Republicans to hold on to the House. I think they will. It's a narrow margin already. But here in New Jersey, there's a lot of winnable districts. I've been talking about CD 11 last week. I talked with Micah Rasmussen from Rider University about this. I talked with David Wildstein from the New Jersey Globe about this. Certainly districts like CD 11 are winnable. Certainly districts like CD 7 can stay red. Other districts like CD 9 can possibly go red as well. I think it's a fair argument that in CD 12, all these Democrats are trying to out progressive to be the progressive over the progressive. And it seems like a middle of the road Republican like yourself can sneak in there. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not trying to water down your campaign, but again, in an election cycle when it seems like everyone's, the Democrats got this in the bag, they're going to win the House, they're going to win back the Senate, they're going to make Trump's last 2 years miserable. I don't see that. And I look at a candidacy like yours as one that can maybe wake up independent voters. Is that what you're hearing when you go door to door in CD12?
Yeah, it is much more even or better for us than people like to think. We all do know the history about midterms and what they do to the incumbent in the White House. But look, if there's anyone who's never followed the normal presidential mold, it's President Trump. So we think there's every chance to pick up seats, in fact, in this election. And the idea of the left thinking, they're going to gain seats, so they might as well put up the most progressive people on earth with the most lunatic policies, that people are still going to feel obligated to do a check and balance on the president. And that's really what the midterm history is about. It's a check and balance, usually on the original on the president for the second half of the term, in other words. But if we have the sort of logical follow through of someone that is more moderate, more but at the same time still core conservative values, they're going to be okay against a really crazy progressive.
Absolutely. And I think especially in a race like this where, listen, I get it. Last November, Democrats have a lot to be giddy about, not just in Virginia, but here in New Jersey. The anti-Trump message, or just the usual Trump derangement syndrome that seems to be resonating within the far left and a lot of progressives, won the day in 2025. But it's 2026. And I'd like to think that TDS has an expiration date on it. There's only so much you can blame the president on, right? Like when it comes to New Jersey and affordability, one party, like New Jersey's literally California. It's a one-party state.
Right.
On a statewide level with the legislature. I mean, Democrats have controlled New Jersey for over 20 years in Trenton. And when it comes to like at the federal level, like again, if we gerrymandered appropriately or at least fairly,
Mm.
there wouldn't be 9 congressional districts controlled out of the 12 by Democrats. Like Republicans, it's not like this is like an 80-20 state here. Like there are plenty of registered
Yeah.
Republicans and also independents that vote Republican. So it would seem like, if we really gerrymandered this fairly, and again, woulda, coulda, shoulda, it's not going to happen with this governor, with this legislature, clearly. But, if calling balls and strikes fairly, though, Greg, if we looked at the state appropriately and we apportioned it correctly, right, we would say it would still lean Democrat, of course, but it'd be like 7-5 instead of this 9-3 overwhelming margin the Democrats have when it comes to congressional districts. And I think that in this cycle, Republicans hopefully learned something from last year, and 2, can knock on doors and say, I get it. You may not like Trump, but at the end of the day, like, your taxes, affordability in New Jersey, everything else has nothing to do with the president. Like the reason New Jersey is unaffordable has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has to do with like incompetent members in the House, like nearby, like Frank Pallone for decades, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and these other virtue signalers that they weaponize abortion and, pander to illegal immigrants. But at the same time, it's like they don't care about New Jersey residents, like taxpayers. It drives me crazy, Greg.
Yeah. No, and, we'll come back to affordability on this right now. That it was stunning and shocking to me that anyone bought the argument last year that Republicans had anything to do with the affordability crisis. We have a nation whose economy is doing great, and we have a New Jersey economy that's doing terrible. Now, what do you suppose the common denominators are there? Obviously, it is the state government and some of the reps on the Democrat side who have been pushing to make these ridiculous policies, refusing tax on tips, for example, and some of the other things in the big, beautiful bill. I mean, it's just insanity that people don't realize that the rest of the country, most of it, is doing pretty well. And it's places like here that just we're held hostage by the Democrats. And just like California, I mean, Newsom is destroying there, and it's the same thing here. And people get the idea like, oh, this is where it is everywhere, and it's actually federal blame. And it's really not. Clearly, but I don't know. It's been an argument that I like I said, I was shocked last year that anyone believed that, and we're going to do a whole lot to try to push back on that this year and say that let's look at the facts and see what actually happened.
Certainly, and again, a big job ahead of her when it comes to the new NJGOP chair, Christine Hanlon, which, by the way, folks, special programming note, she'll be on next month here on Real Talk. So I'm looking forward to speaking with the chairwoman about what lies ahead for the New Jersey Republican Party as it tends to really, hopefully, look in the mirror, maybe a reboot, a reset. Obviously, there are some winnable races this year in congressional districts, yours included, obviously, Greg. We have a Senate candidate in Alex Sedan, who, by the way, folks, note it on your calendar, coming up on Monday, May the 4th. I know for a Star Wars fan, that's a big day. May the 4th be with you. Alex Sedan will join us here on the show, so you definitely want to tune in for that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Alex can do against Cory Booker. But again, when it comes to these congressional races, Greg, it's again, I don't like to be offensive when it comes to rating voters in New Jersey, because sometimes people say, oh, it's just low information voters. No, I think it's low IQ voters, like low political IQ, because it boggles my mind where, again, like, does your hatred for the president of the United States, is that going to pay your property taxes? Is that going to account for the fact that here in New Jersey, again, just a couple of months ago, on January 1st, okay, the tolls went up on both the Parkway and the Turnpike again, okay? The gas tax, which again started under Governor Christie, in all fairness, and Senate President Steve Sweeney and Assembly Speaker Vinny Prieto. I get all that. But the bottom line is that the gas tax has gone up again. And the fact that, thank the Lord, that President Trump is back in office, we continued drilling domestically. We resumed, obviously, we stopped this moratorium on drilling and this nonsense on green energy that we've seen, right? And what's interesting to me is that despite the gas tax, I mean, unfortunately, gas would be around $2 in New Jersey. But right now, I mean, at the lowest right now we're seeing is around $2.50. If it wasn't for the gas tax, we'd be paying $2, maybe a little bit less in New Jersey. So it's far left policies. It's this climate hysteria. It's pandering to illegals. Again, folks, if it wasn't for tonight's blizzard, Republicans and conservatives and parents would have been in Trenton today arguing, strenuously against these awful bills that's being considered in Trenton in the legislature. I mean, again, I'm not going to repeat the title of the bill, one of them, because it's a family program, but, FUCK ICE was essentially the way the bill was named. I mean, this is what Democrats, the far left ones, the progressives are focused on, Greg. Like, it seems like, well, the threats of democracy. Like, what threat to democracy? Like, people haven't lost the right to vote. People are still working. I mean, it's ludicrous to me, man.
Yeah. The voters for them certainly are just afraid. They've been made afraid with the indoctrination over the years, and I think that has a lot to do with their voting pattern as well. But yeah, for the immigration bills, I mean, you have people who are coming here with horrible backgrounds, and they also, while they're here, commit a ton of crimes and get re-released back into the public, all that kind of stuff. Again, something that no one I know wants in their neighborhood is the unsafe streets. So it's stunning how people, for example, in Minnesota, are so brainwashed that they actually interfere with law enforcement. I mean, I learned that when I was 4, that you don't get in the way of a law enforcement officer, no matter what. Your feelings or whatever it is that's going on do not outweigh the law. And they're fulfilling the law enforcement, that it is ridiculous. So, if there's something that should be done better, then enough people have to get elected to vote that way for the law to change. But other than that, you can't be a vigilante in stopping law enforcement from doing what they're supposed to do. It's just the same as if you go out and murder criminals, like the Death Wish movie, for example. Same idea. It's just a different setting, but people don't seem to realize, many of them, just how bad they're behaving and what they're putting themselves in jeopardy of. I mean, this is still a law and order country. You still have to follow the law.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the incumbent right now, who chose not to run again, thank the Lord, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, was part of that publicity stunt last May, where she, along with Newark Mayor Ross Baraka and Representatives Rob Menendez, who is my representative in the House here in the 8th Congressional District, along with Lamaganac MacIver, made asses of themselves last year. I mean, again, and if there's any justice, let's hope that Lamaganac MacIver, rots in jail. I mean, she assaulted a federal law enforcement officer. I mean, I get it. I mean, she's a big woman, so her sneezing can just be an assault. But the bottom line is that, these are the theatrics that progressives and those that pander to illegals live on. And it's interesting to me. I'm going to talk about this later in final thoughts because, David Cruz, who now seems to think he's an independent journalist, has been nothing but an apologist for illegals. And we're seeing what's going on. And to your point about Minnesota, I mean, folks, there are ICE operations all around this country. Do we see the level of stupidity by people thinking it's okay to jump in front of vehicles, to try to physically stop vehicles from entering facilities? I mean, no, it's happening. Listen, there are ICE operations in Texas, Florida, Georgia, Pennsylvania, here in New Jersey. You're not, I mean, you see some idiots, obviously, like by Delaney Hall, trying to stop a van from going inside. But listen, again, Greg, I'm not the attorney. You are, if I'm not mistaken, right? But I remember in grad school, and again, a shout out to Dr. Elizabeth Hall, who I took constitutional law with in grad school. Got an A in it, as a matter of fact. But I seem to remember, again, you're the attorney, so you can remind me on this. But I remember taking con law in grad school. I seem to remember that, sovereignty and the preservation of borders is the responsibility of not just only the legislative branch, but certainly the executive branch. And you would think, and you would, right? So, okay, cool. So I didn't forget my notes in class, and I wasn't asleep the day that they taught the Constitution. But but it's interesting to me. You see members of the House, even with law degrees, seem to forget that, or even aspiring attorneys who, with their woke bullshit narratives. It just seems like it's preposterous to me to think that all you have to do is reread the responsibilities of Congress. And when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to, whether it's the incumbent right now or potentially one of your challengers coming up in CD12 later on this November, Gregg, it seems like, funny little acronyms like abolish ICE seem to be like, oh, that's popular. That's what works. Well, we learned 6 years ago that defund the police was bullshit. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and again, folks, here's a civics lesson. Again, I used to teach higher education. So let me put on my professor cap again. When I used to teach US government and American history, just as a reminder, folks, the Department of Homeland Security was created shortly after the terrorist attacks by Muslim extremists in 2002. And the Secretary of Homeland Security reports, it's an executive cabinet position that reports to the President of the United States. And the Department of Homeland Security is responsible for border protection, cybersecurity, and immigration enforcement. And within the Department of Homeland Security, certain agencies were reorganized. And we have immigrations, customs enforcement. And for over 20 years, ICE has essentially preserved our sovereignty, which is, again, the founders were explicit about that in our document about borders. A country without borders is no country at all. And it seems as we're approaching, Gregg, 250 years later, that people need to reread the document because it seems like the founders are rolling in their graves where they're seeing members of one political party essentially deputize Americans into thinking that going to ICE facilities or stopping federal agents or harassing them is something to be applied. No, it's criminal. And in cases we've seen, it's dangerous. And in some cases, it's lethal. What's so hard to understand about that?
Yeah, no, and it's just the latest step of all this indoctrination over the years. The last 20, 25 years, it's been gradual introducing, it's really a Hitler tactic with the children and introducing, adult topics, introducing fantasy world as fact, and then, trying to suggest that, this is where you're going to find your life's meaning is to fight this fight. And it's completely on the wrong side of history. And it's been shown that way in every other dictatorship that the Democrats want to install here. And that's why we have to keep pushing back, keep fighting back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, getting back to the dire needs in CD12, I know we've talked about affordability, Greg, but one thing that a lot of, viewers on this show have written to me about when they've seen previews and everything, hey, Fernando, if you're going to have so-and-so on, ask about this, ask about that. And by the way, folks, again, comment section's open there. If you have a question or a comment you want to drop in tonight, comment section's right there. It takes 2 seconds. And by the way, if you haven't done so already, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here, folks, as my guest tonight is New Jersey Congressional District number 12 candidate Gregg Mele. Joins us live here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Jersey First TV. Again, like, comment, and share, and show your support for fearless independent media here via Jersey First. Now, one of the things that people have asked me about, Gregg, is also about infrastructure. It's a big district. It's a very socioeconomically diverse district, to say the least. Some affluent towns, some not so affluent towns, some middle class, working class. What are you hearing from residents about, for example, the most dire needs when it comes to infrastructure? What comes to mind in CD12?
Well, I think the infrastructure is aging in general. Bridge repair, construction for the roads, things like that is always on the list. Not unlike a lot of New Jersey. So that kind of thing, we certainly need to find a way to have a better cost structure for that. It's one of those things that adds to the unaffordability here is this prevailing wage law. So if there could be something that could keep it more competitive, that's the reason why New Jersey is the most expensive state in the country for road repair per mile or what have you. But if we could fix that part and make it more competitive and a better, more accountable bidding process, I think, then that would bring some of that back into line. Otherwise, in terms of housing, we have the rules now for the affordable housing. It seems to me that it's really an effort to try to urbanize a lot of towns that have been previously more conservative, and to hopefully swing votes that way by turning it more into an urban center, top to bottom of the state. And I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to go about accommodating more population. I think the affordability in general. I mean, if we have house prices, for example, that are going to stay high or keep going higher, which is good for the homeowner now, but then we need something to also keep the salaries increasing, and also entrepreneurial opportunities where people can make a better living and afford to be here and to stay here. So all these things are what we need to kind of calm everyone's nerves more about the affordability and address it directly. And not to mention a New Jersey equivalent of Doge. I think that's essential all across the board, because there is so much waste in this state, and fraud and abuse, all that stuff, that it's a problem that's going to take a long time to solve, even once we have enough people putting in a concerted effort for it. So we have to get that started now, and we have to clean things up. And again, sort of, not have people depending on the government so much as become self-sufficient with the government's help, so that they can then support their families from then on at a much greater rate. So all kinds of things.
Absolutely. Now, again, when it comes to trying to make New Jersey a little more fiscally responsible, I mean, my goodness, good luck with that in Trenton. I mean, let's see what the new budget is with the new governor coming up, and let's see where the legislature stands on that, because it's just not sustainable here. Obviously, with the amount of money we spend on bullshit projects and supporting a lot of these bullshit nonprofit organizations, especially the left-wing ones, that coincidentally pander to illegals, that coddle illegals financially. I mean, no state that I can think of as densely populated as New Jersey coddles illegals more than we do. It's as simple as that. Let me ask you this, because again, sort of getting back to immigration reform, obviously that's going to be a big topic during this midterm election cycle all around the country. I talked about it before, though, Greg, and again, it's easy when far left Democrats and progressives want to talk about, well, abolish ICE. Again, Professor Uribe is going to have to restart class again. It's going to require Congress to essentially rewrite the charter of the Department of Homeland Security, and that's just not going to happen. Now, I can call balls and strikes fairly here. Now, do we need more than 47 days of training for ICE agents? Certainly. I'm not going to argue that. Again, I'm intellectually honest where I could say that. Should we have body cams on federal agents like we do other law enforcement? Sure. You won't hear a complaint from me, Greg. But this notion that, again, and I understand that a lot of progressives, know that a lot of their voter base are low IQ voters. So when you throw the little acronyms, abolish ICE. No, you just can't abolish ICE. It's bullshit. Now, can there be ways to reform this agency, Greg? Certainly. I think as an academic, as an attorney, I think we could both probably come to some sort of middle ground and say, yes, we can do that. But this notion of, we just need to abolish it. No, that's not going to happen. So there's this idea that Democrats, especially the far left ones, want to run on this platform of like, abolish ICE. It's not going to happen. Stop the bullshit. Now I get it. A lot of your voters are gullible and they eat it up like lobster bisque, but that's just not realistic. Again, you're an attorney, so educate me and our audience. What is a reasonable conversation to have, Greg, about maybe modifying or reforming the agency when it comes to either training, tactics, or anything else?
I mean, a lot of things that we already have in other areas of law enforcement, the body cams, also the dash cams, things like that, extended training, that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's all a good idea. And I think that also serves to instill confidence in the public in general. The one thing that's still a problem is the doxing and telling them that they have to have their masks off. I think the Democrats have demonstrated that they're perfectly willing to put people in crosshairs that don't agree with them and just have them blown away. No ifs, ands, or buts, and no sugarcoating. So, if they are going to continue that path, there is some protection that has to be afforded to law enforcement in the ICE world, at least. That all being said, I mean, I think people have to be reminded again, You're not supposed to step in front of an officer to stop them from doing something that they're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to let the operation go the way it's supposed to go and let the legal system take care of if there are any issues with it. That's really where it needs to come down to. They need to understand that they are not the vigilante. They should not be there. No one should be there. If that had happened, like I said before, if Minnesota was like the rest of the places where ICE has been operating, then things would have gone much more smoothly, and the right people would have been picked up, and there wouldn't be any big confrontations or controversy about it.
And what's interesting is whether it's the current incumbent who's retiring, or a lot of these far left Democrats who are running in the primary in the 12th congressional district right now, or even on the national level. I mean, again, we saw it today at the White House. The president of the United States had Allison Riley, Laken Riley's mother, there on an Angels ceremony, which, again, shame on the mainstream media for not even covering this. But the president of the United States was there to help console families who've been victimized, whose family members have been victimized by crimes committed by illegal immigrants in this country. And what's astonishing to me, and I said this last week to Micah Rasmussen from the Rebovik Institute at Rider University, is, progressives and leftists and the woke fools and everybody, the nose ring militia, you name it, it's interesting about their selective moral outrage, right? Like, for example, whenever there's, incidents of gun violence, right, Greg, what do I hear a lot? Well, if we just ban guns, hey, if we just get rid of guns, and if that saves just one person, then it's worth it. Really? So why don't you come with that same energy? Hey, if we get rid of all illegals, if it saves one American, isn't that worth it too? So, to me, it's the bullshit narratives that, it's the hypocrisy by many. There's a lot of institutions, Greg, that are complicit in this, whether it's higher education, whether it's art and culture, pop culture, the arts, media, Hollywood, you name it. The established media or lack thereof in New Jersey. I mean, all of these people are complicit in everything that's going on when it comes to covering for illegals. Is anyone riding in the street for the poor Ukrainian girl in North Carolina that was killed, right?
Right.
Who also was, an immigrant? No outcries for that. Any outcries for Kate Steinle in San Francisco, killed by an illegal? Laken Riley in Georgia, even here in New Jersey. I mean, again, it just seemed, and what's infuriating to me, whether it's these nonprofit organizations, whether it's elected officials in New Jersey, that are blatant apologists. Okay. Even in academia too, like, again, where's this energy? Like, you're all outraged about, gun violence, right? I mean, folks, let's be honest. Trans people have killed more Americans than ICE have this year. Okay. Let's talk real here. Trans people have killed more Americans in 2026 than ICE agents have, but not a peep, right, from the left or anything. But the bottom line is, it's astonishing to me about the selective moral outrage, Greg.
Yeah. And the Democrats have such a long history. They really hate Americans. They want to support these outside groups, and or they're intimidated by them because they've overrun their party. But still no excuse. I mean, I think that if they stood up to the real far left wing progressives that are really talking lunacy with a lot of their policies, then they might come back into a more moderate position and actually win over more people. I think the people who are voting for them now are the ones that have been intimidated and scared into voting for these ridiculous policies, and they don't even realize that it's against their interests as American citizens. So, they just have gotten away so far with so much of that nonsense, where they're afraid to mention the Laken Rileys and so on of the world, because they know that that's going to show them up for the hypocrites they are and the America haters that they are. And sooner or later, people are going to catch enough wind of that they're not going to win another election if they're exposed for what they are. That's why they keep lying about some of the other things for years already. That they can't call President Trump a Nazi for 4 years and now suddenly say, well, he's doing okay. So yeah, we were lying. We were just trying to steal votes. It was
Yeah.
we knew it was never true. They can't admit that, but that's
No.
what it was. So now they're stuck with that narrative.
Absolutely. Again, and we'll see tomorrow during the State of the Union address where I'm sure the president will call out the far left on their hypocrisy. And I'm sure that immigration reform, and I'm sure that there'll be families there in attendance who have been victimized by illegals.
Yes.
As well as and I'm happy to know obviously that the U.S. men's hockey team will be there tomorrow too. So more on that later, folks. You want to tune in for that during a special comment. My joy today as an American after the gold medal winning men's and women's hockey team. So stick around for that. Folks, again, it is, look at the clock here, 5:40 here on the East Coast. If you just joined us right now, and where else would you be, folks, on this Blizzard Monday? Again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here on Real Talk as New Jersey 12th Congressional District candidate Gregg Mele joins us live here on Real Talk. Again, folks, like, comment, and share. It really helps show your support for fearless, independent journalism here, courtesy of Real Talk on Jersey First TV. Gregg, it's a big district. Obviously, you need a ground game. You've been raising some money. What are you hearing right now? It is mid-February. Obviously, primary day is a few months away, but that's not stopping you. You're getting to work early. You're hitting the ground. How crowded is the field on your side, on the Republican side? We know that at least on the Democrat side, certainly as many as 17 Democrats are running in that primary in the 12th Congressional District with the Democrat Party. How many Republicans are you up against in this primary process?
Well, in the second half of January, actually, we had two people start signing up for conventions and things like that. Before that, I was by myself. And in the intervening period, one has dropped out of the race, and so he's actually running for a county commissioner position instead. So we're supportive of each other, and that's all great. There is one other fellow that's been coming to a couple of the meetings. I'm not sure that he's been at too much of the usual things that you would attend at this stage of the game, heading into convention season here. But I'm hearing that the party leadership has their support coming my way. I have one county committee endorsement already in Union, and we're heading to Mercer next, followed by Somerset and Middlesex. And we seem to have a lot of the leadership lining up in support of what we're trying to do here. And I mean, as you mentioned before, I had a couple of runs before, so people have gotten to know me over the last few years, and I haven't really taken a break in between. I wanted to keep involved with people and keep meeting new people. And so my network among the state in the political world has grown a lot. So I really think I'm in a great position to have a lot of strong backing in the general as well. And that's what I will need to win that race, is that the party doesn't just, sit back, that they come out in good numbers. So that's what we're trying to push for and make sure that everybody's okay with that, on the same page, that kind of thing. And also to point out the flaws in the Democratic policies and their sound bites over substance that they always do, and try to disenchant some of those Democratic voters to come our way as well, and figure out that, really the common sense is what we have as our campaign and what the state really needs across the board.
Folks, again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. If you have a question or a comment, drop it in the comment section there. Shout out to Marilyn Colon right there on YouTube tuning in tonight here. Appreciate your support there. And you mentioned about networking, obviously, and county committees. I know, obviously, because of yesterday's blizzard, I was scheduled to appear along with you, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the Reagan Day event for the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club, which I know has been moved to this Saturday. To the best of my knowledge, I'm still a speaker. I think you are as well. So I'm reported to be this Saturday in, I believe, Monroe, right? I think it's Monroe.
Yes, Monroe, Forest Gate Country Club.
Yep. So I'll be in Middlesex County again as a Rutgers alum there in New Brunswick, my own stopping ground. So it'll be good to be back in Middlesex County this Saturday. Hopefully, I can get my car out by then. And right now the way it's looking, my car's buried, as well as everybody else in New Jersey. So we'll see, how to get down there.
You better make it, because I need to shake your hand again. It's been too long since we get to meet face to face.
That's really kind, brother. I appreciate that. And again, listen, you kind of motivated me there. I've always known you as the guy with the nice beard, and I'm just trying to keep up with you, brother. You know what I'm saying? So,
come on.
No, it's good to see you. But certainly, again, folks, before again, we call it a night here with New Jersey Congressional District number 12 House candidate Gregg Mele tonight here on our show. Again, folks, like, comment, and share. It really helps the show grow and shows your support for fearless, independent journalism here, courtesy of Real Talk on Jersey First TV. Gregg, we've got to know you, the candidate. Picture your legal brain a little bit as an attorney. Quick lightning round here with you. Let's get to know Gregg Mele, the guy. So quick lightning round here before we call it a night here on Real Talk. So obviously, we just had the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago, but NFL fan, any team you follow?
Yeah, I mean, I do follow the Giants. I also follow the Rams and the Dolphins, actually, for many years. So they're also in my world of favorites. But yeah,
wow, that's a really diverse fandom there. What led to that? Giants, Rams, and Dolphins. Talk to me.
All different reasons. I mean, well, Giants obviously for being the home team here, as far as I'm concerned. The Dolphins I watched since the 70s. Actually, the year before they had the perfect season, and I was going to my first couple of Florida vacations, and enjoyed the area there, and so I started following them. And actually, the year before they lost to the Cowboys, and it wasn't pretty in the Super Bowl. And that day, I said, you know what, Miami's going to be so angry they're going to have a perfect year next year, and see what happened the only time, right? So that was a miracle of sorts.
Sure enough.
Later on, a few years later on, I also probably romanticized the West Coast a little bit as a younger guy, and thought, sunny, nice environment, nice and warm air, weather, and all that stuff. Maybe I want to live there someday. Things have changed, but just that drew me into following what the Rams were doing. So yeah, I followed those teams pretty equally, I guess.
Okay, and just a special note here, as a Cowboy fan, Gregg, there, and for a little history buffs out there, 24-3 Cowboys, that final, that Super Bowl against Dolphins. Long time ago. It seems like a long time for me for a championship, 30 years and counting. Oh God, I don't know when I'll see a Super Bowl. God help me.
Been a little bit, but just hang in there.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Listen, it's spring training. Baseball season's around the corner. Favorite MLB team?
Mets.
Okay, so all right. Listen, big Yankee fan here. I got nothing to look forward to. I think this Yankee team stinks. Same team. Maybe they'll make the playoffs, but not really enthusiastic. But the New York Mets made some moves. Obviously, picked up a starting pitcher. Obviously, it seems like there was some locker room dissension or turmoil, which led to the dismissal of McNeil and others. Pete Alonso. Seems like this is firmly Francisco Lindor's team, along with Juan Soto. Met lineup. Pitching looks pretty good. Bullpen looks a little suspect. What's make or break this year for the Mets, Gregg?
Well, I mean, the pitching has to be consistent. That's the biggest thing, and it usually is the biggest thing for a winning team. I do want to point out, as far as the history for me, for hockey and baseball, before, I guess really including when the Devils came along. I mean, I'm true blue Devils fan, and as far as the Mets thing. My father is the old school New York teams, basically the Yankees, and I mean he's been Giants forever. I've softened my stance on that, but I basically and he's a Ranger fan. I basically softened my stance on initially picking as a little kid the opposite teams from him, so we could have some fun with rivalry, and then both of us would cheer for whoever's team won the rest of the way. So, but that's how it came out.
Well, in my family, it's kind of interesting. We're all diehard Yankee fans. My dad, my uncle, my cousin, we're all diehard Yankee fans. A little split here. My dad's a diehard Jet fan. Immigrated here from Colombia the year that Joe Namath won the Super Bowl. So, he's a diehard Jet fan. Been some years since the Super Bowl title for the Jets. Obviously, I've been all over the place with the NBA. I'm a Laker fan right now. Don't mind to see it. Listen, if the Knicks win a title, I'd be happy for the area. I think God knows no one's ever seen a Knicks championship that we can think of. Diehard Devil fan, as you can see behind me. Love going to Prudential Center. And by the way, folks, I'll die on this hill. Live hockey is still very affordable, and it's fun to go to Prudential. It's fun to go to any hockey game,
Yeah,
especially Prudential Center. I mean, it's affordable. It's a fun atmosphere. The Devils have a great tradition, a great history, and of course, to beat Canada in the Winter Olympics for the first time, first gold medal in 46 years, Greg, that the game-winning goal was scored by who? A New Jersey Devil. Jack Hughes was music to my ears. So definitely good to see that. Greg, I know you're.
By the way, just the Lakers are my team as well, by the way. And
nice. Okay.
So we got some commonality there.
I got to tell you, not happy with that effort last night. I thought it was embarrassing on a night that they inducted a statue for Pat Riley. That Lakers team was flat with effort. And I'll tell you, Luka and LeBron James, they got to get it together here, okay? Being a Laker is an honor. It's a privilege to be a Laker, win that championship here. Let's go. We'll see what happens. It's a long season, but we'll see in the coming weeks here for the Lakers in the Western Conference. But I know you're a dad, Greg. Not sure if this is relevant in the house, but DC or Marvel fans in the house?
I haven't followed so much, so diehard. So, I mean, my children are all grown and gone just about. We have one finished college last year, and he's getting ready, I think, to head out. But otherwise, my girls are 35 and 33. My boys otherwise are 32 and 30. And so they're all in their own place. And so I didn't keep up as much on the sports stuff with them or the movie stuff with them. So I'm not sure exactly where they're at with those things these days. It does change every so often. But I know they've followed. I mean, in the past, a lot of it was the Harry Potter and the other one, Lord of the Rings. Was popular. But I mean, we're all over the place. My one daughter, the 33-year-old, actually, she just had our fourth grandchild in January, and that's
congratulations, bro. Congratulations to you. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, she's the one with all the grandkids so far, and so she had 3 girls and now a boy. So yeah, we're extremely happy and celebrating a lot.
Well, let me tell you, Grandpa is busy. He's running for House. He's running for Congress. He's a granddad. My goodness, he's busy.
Got to be an example.
Yeah, he's certainly busy. Last one here. We just had President's Day last week. Favorite American president and why?
Well, I would tell you there's really 4. But I mean, so Trump is definitely among them. I think he's revolutionized a lot of things with what he does. Reagan was also an inspirational leader who turned us back from a disaster economically and on foreign policy with Carter. And of course, Lincoln and Washington. Yeah.
Okay. I did ask my guest last week, and I figured I'd ask you as well.
Sure.
Least favorite American president?
I would tell you it's either Clinton or Obama for what they did to the country on Clinton for just partying all the time, and really like he tried to campaign on the prior 12 years being an economic disaster, which it was the greatest boom I've seen.
Yeah.
And then he went ahead when he was in office. He didn't change anything because he was too busy partying. He actually continued those policies, and that's why his economics were so good. So I think he was just a phony, besides all the other accusations now that are around him. But Obama really raised the racism issue again, where it was all but gone in our generation. I mean, I was born right around Civil Rights Act, and we never had that kind of issue growing up with anyone. Everybody got along, and nobody even thought that anyone was different because of that. So, anything like that, gender also, anything like that. Now there's 57 genders, but even when it was just 2, it was like nobody treated anyone worse for the longest time. It was extremely few incidents that were newsworthy that came on during a long period of time there. And I believe that he figured out that the Democrat policies are so bad that they needed a distraction. And so he would, push the media to show only the last few seconds of an altercation with police where the perpetrator was shot, say, or something like that. And they wouldn't show the previous 15 or 20 seconds where the guy actually jumped in the car at the officer first, which of course you kind of get what you ask for with that,
Sure, yeah.
in my mind. But then those police would get acquitted when the whole video was shown in the trial, but people wouldn't see that in the public still. And so they were mad about, oh, they're protecting each other again. Everybody's letting everybody get out and all this kind of stuff and get away with everything. And meanwhile, it was just that Obama hid those through his media contacts, all those fuller clips to really show the full story. Again, it's sound bites, it's snippets with them. And that's what the problem is. That's where all this, tension now came up again in the last several years. And it's really a shame because the country was so bonded together before that. I thought it was a great time to be an American for so many years. And then it got tainted in some respect in terms of what Obama encouraged. So I really don't like what he did with this country. And even his racial community is not happy with him because they feel like he just abandoned them to get his own book and movie deals or whatever it is, studio deals, and just took care of himself. And that's not the message of hope that he was supposed to be sending when he first got elected. So I think it was a big letdown for everybody.
I'm with you. Listen, I couldn't say it any better. I look at Obama, my least favorite American president, maybe second, and you may not like this answer, but there's layers to it. But and I'm not a big George W. Bush guy. I think what we've come to learn about George W. Bush and Dick Cheney 20 years later, Greg, I mean, it's, I don't look fondly back on that level.
I'm sorry. I would tell you, as far as George W., I mean, that's what got me actually to stop following politics from following it since I was like 9.
Sure.
I stopped following when it changed from the post 9/11 Bush to the huge bailout financial crisis at the end.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, when he started spending like a Democrat, that's what turned me off, and then followed by Obama apologizing to the world for nothing that was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're absolutely right, and I'll even add on top of that too. I think what we've come to learn about the post 9/11 world with Bush and Cheney, and obviously lying us into wars, and people got rich during that presidency, and it's something I'll never forgive Dick Cheney for. And it's interesting when I hear conservatives or Republicans, like for example, like Never Trumpers in New Jersey, that say, "Oh my God, if we could ever go back to the days of respectable Republicans like George W." I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you say that with a serious face? Like, it's really insulting to me. But I'm with you on Obama. I think there was nobody more divisive in my adult life than the 8 years of Barack Obama. And again, I look at cycles and I look at sort of sequences, right? Like 12 years of Reagan and George H.W. Bush produced 8 years of Clinton. I mean, whether you like it or not, I mean, that's just the way it worked out, right? 8 years of Clinton produced 8 years of Bush. 8 years of Bush produced Obama. 8 years of Obama produced Donald Trump. Now, obviously, what we've come to learn about Democrats and how underhanded they were produced Joe Biden. And the incompetence of 4 years of Joe Biden's incompetence, auto pens, everything else gave us another Trump term. So I think it's always about sequences and a cause and effect.
I mean, to that effect, I mean, the only reason that Obama's a little less unlikable to me than the other two I mentioned was, he didn't do half the stuff and he didn't remember the other half of the stuff. So it's kind of hard to be mad at him solely because everybody else was pulling the strings.
Yeah.
But certainly all his policies that went through were terrible.
Absolutely.
Regardless of who used the auto pen, for example.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, Greg, any URLs, websites, social media links for your campaign for our audience to learn about today?
So the website is www.mele4america, and it's the number 4.com. Also, all the the X and Instagram, that's all at Mele for America, again the number. So stuff is starting to ramp up with postings there, and we're also doing a lot of texting and all that stuff as well. So people will be hearing from us, and they'll certainly not have a problem finding us.
I appreciate it. Well, folks, again, he is Gregg Mele. He is running in the 12th congressional district in Central, maybe South Jersey too, if you want to call it that. But he's our guest tonight, folks. Again, check him out. And you have options in the 12th congressional district. Now that Bonnie Watson Coleman, good riddance to her, folks. You have a chance to make a real difference and elect some competency for once in CD12. It starts with great candidates like my guest tonight, Gregg Mele. Gregg, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting my brand of journalism. And we'll talk to you again soon here on the campaign trail in 2026.
Yep. And it's also a great time for renewal for all you CD12 folks. And Fernando, it is always a pleasure to see you and especially be on the show with you.
I appreciate it, sir. Stay safe. I'll see you Saturday there in Monroe. All right.
See you Saturday. Absolutely.
Take care.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Folks, good stuff there with Gregg Mele, candidate for the House in the 12th Congressional District down in Central Jersey. And again, a guy who's a breath of fresh air, folks. He's an attorney, accomplished, and certainly a guy with great ideas. And folks, for a district that has just been wallowing in incompetence and the same bullshit narratives and talking points from someone like Bonnie Watson Coleman, and we're seeing 17 far left progressives and Democrats trying to destroy CD12. Folks, you have an option coming up this year. And don't buy the nonsense by progressives in the far left. Okay? The reason affordability is not possible in New Jersey, the reason that it sucks to live in New Jersey in all aspects isn't because of Republicans. All right? It's not because of Donald Trump. It's not because of a guy who came down the escalator 11 years ago and ran for president. No, folks. It's bad people in the House of Representatives. People like Frank Pallone, people like Bonnie Watson Coleman, Nellie Poe, LaMontgomery MacGyver. I mean, these are the useless, inept people representing New Jersey in the House of Representatives. You have a chance, folks, to send someone competent to Washington to represent the 12th Congressional District. He's my guest, Gregg Mele, tonight. So give him a look. Show some support, folks. If you can donate to this campaign, of course, donations are tax deductible. And of course, if you're looking to donate your time or volunteer for him, going door to door, obviously not in these blizzard conditions, but when the weather gets a little bit warmer, you want to knock on doors, you want to be an advocate, okay, for his campaign or a surrogate. Gregg Mele definitely is a guy you want to look out for in the 12th Congressional District. Folks, it is 6 o'clock exactly here on the East Coast. We appreciate you tuning in here. It's a nice day to be indoors, folks, with this blizzard-like conditions. Hopefully, please stay safe out there. Don't overexert yourself if you're shoveling. If you can delegate to someone else, pay it, please. Stay indoors, stay safe, stay healthy, stay alive during these cold days and, of course, during these blizzard-like conditions. Shout out to all the great Department of Public Works and all of our municipalities working hard to clean our streets, to salt them, and to make sure that our residents can be safe, whether they have to go to work, obviously not to school, but to work or any emergencies. Thankfully, all the DPWs working hard all throughout New Jersey to keep our roads safe and clean during this blizzard in 2026. Folks, again, we appreciate you tuning in here. Again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode of Real Talk on all of your social media platforms. It really helps the show grow and shows your support for fearless, independent journalism, folks, right here with Real Talk on Jersey First TV. Folks, it's what you're always waiting for. It's time for final thoughts. Folks, and when I think about this political climate, I think about the usual suspects and sort of like the usual inept people, whether it's in higher education, whether it's in government work, whether it's useless journalists. So folks, you can take your pick behind me. I mean, there's no shortage of bad actors in New Jersey. But what's interesting about bad journalism in New Jersey, and of course, when I think about it, I mean, obviously, to no one's surprise, I think about Uncle Dave, David Cruz. And somehow Uncle Dave wants you to believe that now somehow, he wants you to support, fearless, independent journalism. Wonder where you got that from. Watching my show much, David? But what was interesting about Uncle Dave, folks, and again, if you ever need a cure for insomnia, you can always watch his shows on YouTube, which, let's be honest, garbage ratings. But what else is new? It's garbage journalism from a garbage show. Okay? But it was brought to my attention this past weekend, obviously, as we all know, Uncle Dave was relieved of his duties at NJ Spotlight News last year when he was hosting, among other things, Reporters Roundtable. So he's decided to keep tradition going and talk to other journalists. Some good ones, like Brent Johnson from NJ Advanced Media, Fred Snowflake from Insider NJ, Okay. But he'll continue having all like the same useless garbage journalists like Matt Freeman, who looks like he lives under a bridge, Chucky, Charles Style. This past week, something was brought to my attention. Listen, and again, I get it. Uncle Dave, shout out to him. Last week on his little Mickey Mouse.
And did the same thing evidently in December. I thought his silence was kind of curious. I mean, there was an ICE raid or an arrest in Union City in front of a church of all places last week.
Yeah, David, I mean, because ICE has to go get criminal illegals. I know that doing work is something that's foreign to David Cruz. And I get it. El un huevón. Like, for anyone that knows David Cruz, like, él es vago. He's one of these typical people that, likes to talk from the cheap seats. But does he actually do any real work? I'll give him credit. He went to the light rail station a couple of weeks ago and stood out there and virtue signaled and grandstanded like he usually does. But here's an unnecessary jab at one of the most hardworking mayors and state senators in New Jersey right now. Okay? My mayor and state senator, Brian Stack. Let's continue on here.
He's the mayor there. I looked and I didn't see anything from him on the issue recent. Chaz, you know the demographic in Union City, probably 90% immigrant. Was it odd to you?
Again, David, let's stop conflating things. Yes, it is a large percentage to be immigrant. But to be concerned about illegal immigration isn't a bad thing. I know you want to virtue signal because you want to keep your street cred with all the woke fools in Jersey City and the nose ring militia and everybody else. I get it. And shout out to Charles Style. It looks like he just woke up. Chucky, where'd you get that hat, Trent State College? I mean, did you buy it at the student store when you were on campus? Because I don't think you went there. I mean, I can't imagine a great institution like Trent State College, which went on to become the College of New Jersey. I can't imagine you actually applied and got accepted there. So did you just buy that hat when you were walking by? I mean, I'm curious. But let's hear Chucky pontificate.
You that he's kind of silent on this issue?
It is odd to me. I'm surprised that seems like a natural constituency. And he's a tough egg to crack on this. I mean, everything about one thing about Brian Stack, though, is you see everything through the lens of what can I bring back to Union City. I don't think he looks at larger political issues that affect the broader landscape as much.
Yeah, because guess what? He's actually doing his job, whether it's seeing over 100 people a day during his constituent hours or going to Trenton to get funding back to Union City and the other municipalities in the 30th legislative district. Now, I get it for someone like Uncle Dave, who literally for 12 years kissed Stephen Fulop's ass. All right. And for a guy that gets all sensitive about, someone saying out loud that Uncle Dave lives in a shithole part of Jersey City. Well, guess what, Dave? For 12 years, you kissed Stephen Fulop's ass. And for 12 years, the same shithole you live in continues to be a shithole. So please be a little intellectually. And I know that's a big word for you, especially even integrity. That's a big word for you, among other words. But really, you're going to take a jab at someone like Brian Stack, who, by the way, like, these videos of him out there during blizzard-like conditions. He's not like other mayors. Like, did you see Steve Fulop ever outside in a blizzard in 12 years? And this is a guy, David, whose ass you kissed. Like, if Stephen Fulop put his ass right here, mwah, that was David Cruz. He would pucker up his lips and plant him right there on one of those cheeks. That's what David Cruz did for 12 years. Okay? But you have the audacity to go after someone like Brian Stack. See, again, folks, and I'll let you finish the clip here in a minute. It's not that long, thankfully. Okay? But folks, if you look at Brian Stack's social media, he's been very clear. Yes, Union City is a welcoming city. He looks to help residents regardless of what their status is. But folks, he's been very clear. He's not going to interfere with federal law enforcement. And that's a good thing because my mayor and state senator understands the law. All these activists, all these virtue signalers All these like woke come mierdas like David Cruz, they somehow they didn't get that. Right? So my mayor state senator is simply complying with federal law enforcement. That's it. He's going to make sure that he takes care of constituents, but he's not going to interfere with federal law enforcement. See, that's what Uncle Dave wants. That's what these registers like Chucky wants and others, right? And others within the left-wing echo chamber here in New Jersey, right? But for David Cruz to be all sanctimonious, Dave, bro, tú tienes cojones para hablar about Brian Stack? When for 12 years, Stephen Fulop literally let developers run wild in Jersey City and not a peep from you, right? Really? But this is who you want to go after, David? Come on, bro. Tengo un poquito de vergüenza. I know you don't, because tú eres un sinvergüenza. I get it. But come on, David. Have a little credibility.
So I really don't know. I'm not sure what his play is on this, or whether he had actually a legitimate excuse. If he had an excuse, this only goes to the complaint about double dippers.
Brent is
Which again, folks, and there's Chucky just advocating the usual bullshit. What double dipping are we talking about here? What is that? How is that relevant? You're conflating a law that not just only State Senator Stack was grandfathered into, but others were as well. Okay. But again, ICE agents had credible intel to arrest criminal illegals in city, just like they have in Jersey City and other municipalities. Okay. Like, what do you want Mayor Stack to do? Do you want him to throw himself in front of an ICE van? Do you want him to act like a complete idiot, like U.S. Representative Lamagana MacGyver or Bonnie Watson Coleman or Ross Baraka? Like, David, have a little integrity. I know that's a big integrity. That's a big word for you. But these jabs at Brian Stack are unnecessary, and you know it. Why? Because Brian doesn't take you seriously. Brian doesn't like to take questions from you because you're a garbage journalist. I wouldn't take questions from you either. For 30 years, you've been a garbage journalist. There's no other way to say it. I can say it because I'm pretty well insulated, and you can't do shit to me. What you do, sit on me? What you do, steal my food when you see me? I mean, I would never try to eat in front of David Cruz. I wouldn't be able to eat.
there some lobby or PAC or something
That's
that
a
we
good
don't
que-
know about?
I don't know. You would think that he's also a very visible and rising Brian Stack. So I don't know. I don't know if it still speaks to the fact that even though polls still show that this is.
Well, folks, again, that's Uncle Dave there with his usual grandstanding on his little Mickey Mouse show. And again, shout out to Brent Johnson. I love Brent Johnson. He's great. Can't say the same for Chucky. I mean, ese otro huevón, like, that's maybe once a week that Charles Style works. And, as well as Daniel Hahn, I mean, because Matt Freeman doesn't work. So poor bastard has to, like, go up and down New Jersey to do work that Matt Freeman should be doing. So, but I thought it was interesting. Obviously, when we see, the usual pontificating from Uncle Dave, right? And when we think of, how blatantly disingenuous he is, because folks, what ICE has been doing for years, even before the second Trump administration or the first Trump administration, for decades, they've been ridding illegals out of this country. Okay. And on a day like today, when the president hosted families affected by the criminality of illegals, you think the establishment media would talk about this? Of course not. You think Uncle Dave, when he was like, folks, have you ever seen on your iPhone or on your iWatch, right? Apple Watch, when you ever seen that app where it says, health and the steps? Could you imagine what the number of steps he takes? And again, folks, the number of steps can't be going from your living room to the kitchen to get food. Like, that's Dave, that's not steps. So I would think anyone in your position would want to be healthier. But that's asking a lot of Uncle Dave. But on a day when the president of the United States is hosting families, for example, Allison Riley, the mother of Laken Riley, You would think that would get more attention from the mainstream press or even a mention on Uncle Dave's social media. Of course not. That will require Uncle Dave to have, wait for it, integrity. And we know he doesn't have any. But let's take you to earlier today in the White House, where the President of the United States is honoring families deeply affected by the criminality of illegals here in the U.S.
I think that a lot of people feel like that President Trump is maybe different than the version I've gotten to know. And I just can't thank you enough. You have said from the beginning, literally the day after this happened, that you would not forget about Laken. You weren't president at that time, and you have not forgotten. You have fought a fight that most people would not want to have to fight. Most people wouldn't. They would just say it's just easier not to do this. And President Trump you are doing a thankless job that most people just wouldn't do. And I just can't thank you enough. There are just not enough words to say. Because if you've lived the nightmare that we have lived, you understand the importance of the job that he's doing and securing our nation and fighting for our families. Because this could be any family. This happened to my family. This could be any one of your families. And Laken was the most responsible, hardworking, kind, selfless, beautiful Christian. And she wasn't somebody that put herself in bad positions. She didn't make bad choices. She was just a good girl. And she just wanted to go for a run that morning after she'd gotten up at 4 o'clock the morning before to decorate her roommate's door for her birthday. And she did everything for everyone else. She expected nothing in return. She just wanted to be a good friend and a good sister and a good daughter and a hardworking nurse. She was working so hard for. And I'm beyond blessed and thankful that you're honoring not just Laken, because she's one in a ton of people that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrants. She's not the only one. And so thank you for honoring all of them, not just Laken. And we're just beyond grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, but folks, like, do you think Uncle Dave would maybe do a segment on this and the job the president's doing in honoring families that are affected by illegals? Of course not. He'd rather grandstand and virtue signal like the rest of the woke mob in Jersey City and Hoboken and all these other progressives and all the members of the nose ring militia, okay, and take jabs at people for not taking a position. Folks, again, this is where Uncle Dave, and I can't call him establishment media because he doesn't work for establishment media. He claims he's an independent journalist, but give me a break, okay? He's about as credible as the Mets are every October, but let's stick to the topic, okay? And in case Uncle Dave needs a reminder, because Uncle Dave loves to grandstand, right? He'll have clowns like Amy Torres, okay, Nettie Morsi, and all these other far left activists from all these other Mickey Mouse organizations that pander and coddle to illegals. He'll talk to them all day. Okay? Because I know for David, like, you know, you're 89 years old. So when you took civics or U.S. history years ago, as I talked about it on the show earlier with my guest tonight, for someone like myself who's taught in higher education, who's taught American government, who's taught U.S. history, understands the importance of sovereignty and borders. So when ICE is doing their job in communities all across this country, they're getting rid of dangerous illegals. Okay. And in case, and I know Uncle Dave's 89 years old. Ya la mente ya está un poquito ya jodida for Uncle Dave. Because, you know, yeah, he can remember what he wants to eat every 3 hours. But, you know, when it comes to being credible, having integrity, se le olvida las cosas. Ya, yo entiendo, está viejo. Yo entiendo. Todo el mundo llega. I'll get there too. Okay. The only difference is, folks, God willing, when I get to 89 years old like Uncle Dave, I think I'll still have the integrity I have today. But as a reminder, let's give Uncle Dave and all the woke fools and all the virtue singlers a refresher about why ICE has such an important job. Let's give Uncle Dave a reminder right now.
You know where you are with. You know where you are with. Floor collapsing, falling, bouncing back and walking.
Yeah, this is the why, David. Okay. So while I'm sure you'll sit there and I'm sure you're gonna applaud clowns like, you know, Katie Brennan, Ravi Bala, and all these other virtue singlers in Trenton or out that you want to interview, submitting, you know, possible legislation that when you read the bill and the title itself, it spells out a pretty, you know, vulgar term as it pertains to ICE, and maybe people want to use that as like a hashtag, right? And think that that's cool. Well, folks, you know, again, this is pretty much a family show. So why don't we get another hashtag going on our social media? Because I'm sure Uncle Dave will be the first one to applaud, you know, Katie Brennan and Ravi Bala and all these other virtue singlers with their, you know, FUCK ICE legislation in Trenton, the way it's titled. And I'm sure that, you know, he'll be gladly applauding with the rest of the, because folks, let's be honest, we think about Uncle Dave and all the other virtue singlers in Hudson County or New Jersey that all they do is want to coddle illegals. And when I think about them, I think about, let's be honest. Folks, I mean, that's what comes to mind. So if we want to get a new hashtag going, yeah, I hear people say hashtag abolish ICE, hashtag, you know, blank ICE. Why don't we get a new hashtag going? How about this one? How about fuck David Cruz? How about we do that for a hashtag? I'll actually start on my socials tonight. And why don't we follow it up on that? So for someone like David Cruz, who thinks he's on the right side of history, he's actually not. And I'm pretty sure he'll sit there and he'll gladly applaud clowns like Katie Brennan and Ravi Bala and others that want a virtue signal. And whether it's like the Democrat Socialists of America, or whether it's Make the Road New Jersey, or the Latino Action Network, or the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, sure. When I think about them, I think about clown shows. I think about what it means to be a client. Again, folks, when we talk about the brand of journalism or lack thereof that David Cruz produces, folks, the best way to describe it, well, let's be honest, it's
No. Show. You're a loser. Clown. You're a loser. Show. You're a Mets fan. Say it with me, Michael. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. It's a clown show.
I mean, folks, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's really no way to describe it, but when we think about David Cruz, it's a total clown show. Do better, David. Then again, will you ever? Sticking in final thoughts and speaking about clowns, and I've talked about it before. One of the more useless women in New Jersey, I can't even call it media because I don't think he even does media anymore. Right? I think about little Jay Lassiter. And I know, folks, trust me, that's Jay Lassiter. I know you may not recognize him because he has something in his mouth, but then again, when doesn't Jay Lassiter have something in his mouth? But that's That's Jay Lasher's life. You know, part of the reason his quality of life and his health sucked, but that's a topic for another day. Right? But this was brought to my attention as well because he's been such a vocal advocate against everything that's conservative or Republican. Check out this dubious tweet brought to my attention here. This is how Jay Lasher spends his days, because we all know he doesn't work. We all know he lives off his husband's money, smokes weed all day, and let's be honest, the only pussy that can be near him are his cats. Right? Number one, I'm really glad Phil Murphy's gone. Well, I think we can all agree to that too. For those of us that are homeowners and taxpayers, people that work. Can't say the same for Jay Lasher. He doesn't do any of that. But here's a funny one. Mikey Sherrill has been a surprisingly refreshing cultural and political reset here in New Jersey. Yes, folks, only 1 month in. Yes, the focus has been on, everything anti-Trump and just virtue signaling. Is that going to bring down the cost of my energy bills or my property taxes? Now, again, I know for someone like Jay Lasser, who doesn't work, who doesn't pay taxes, who doesn't contribute to anything in society. I mean, he's pretty much a useless person in society. Okay. To say this with a straight face, I think has to be pretty laughable. But again, folks, there's a reason why Jay Lasher doesn't do media anymore. It's hard to take him seriously when he has asinine takes like this one. But then again, when was it ever a time to take Jay Lasser seriously? But again, unfortunately, folks, for those of us with high political IQs, we have to breathe the same oxygen with idiots like Jay Lasser. And those are my final thoughts. Well, actually, you know what? Before I say that, if we're going to apply the same standard to David Cruz, let's be honest, folks, I think we have to apply the same standards to Jay Lasser.
No. Show. Loser. Clown. Loser. Show. Say it with me, Mike. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. It's a clown show.
Yeah, folks. I mean, really, it's a clown show. But then again, what else is new when it comes to Jay Lasser? And those are my final thoughts. Folks, a special comment tonight, as you can see there behind me. I am as diehard a Devil fan as you'll ever meet. And if you got up early yesterday morning to watch the gold medal game between the United States and Canada in the men's Winter Olympic hockey final, you woke up to a great and festive occasion. For the first time in 46 years, since the Miracle Team in 1980, the U.S. men's hockey team has won Olympic gold, vanquishing Canada in overtime, 2-1. And of course, leave it to the New Jersey Devil, Jack Hughes, with the game winner in overtime. So congratulations to the U.S. men's hockey team for their triumphant win. And by the way, shout out to the U.S. women's hockey team as well. Shout out to the girls winning gold and beating Canada as well in Italy over the weekend. Shout out to the men and women in Team USA for bringing home the gold and showing our neighbors to the north, those punk asses in Canada, well, that's just one more thing that we're better than you at. And of course, folks, in a time when there's a world full of useless clowns, especially women like Megan Rapinoe and other useless women that, quite frankly, wouldn't know patriotism if it hit him in the face. People here in New Jersey like, I don't know, Maria Rodriguez and Amy Torres and Nettie Morsi and Antoinette Miles and others. In a world full of Megan Rapinoe's, folks, and Colin Kaepernick's and clowns that take knees and are proud to be Americans, do me a favor. In a world full of them, it's not that hard. Just be like Jack Hughes. Congratulations to Team USA. And folks, if that's ever a picture of a hockey player, that's our New Jersey Devil, Jack Hughes. Congratulations to him and Team USA on winning the gold medal and beating the Canadians in the Winter Olympics. Folks, that should make you proud to be an American. Not people that think they're patriotic. They're not. They're just not. Not just the people I named, but plenty of others that seem to think they're patriotic. Folks, they're far from it. And that's my special comment. Folks, that's our show for this week once again. Oh, before I call it, by the way, I know that today's a blizzard day, and I know that school districts were closed all throughout New Jersey. But I was especially impressed when I heard that Este come mierda, Anthony Uribe, right, the Department of Public Works Commissioner in North Bergen, apparently it's my understanding he was put in charge of sending out the pre-recorded audio message to North Bergen residents. Folks, can you imagine Este come mierda sitting there like this, having to read the copy? Attention, North Bergen residents. Could you imagine how many takes Este come mierda had to do before he recorded that for North Bergen students and teachers and everything? Can you imagine este imbécil ahí like folks, it's embarrassing. But yeah, again, shout out. I'm sure after 4 or 5 tries, I'm sure Anthony Uribe got it right. So shout out to Anthony Uribe, felicidades on doing some extra work on a Sunday, because God knows you don't do work any other day of the week. And that's our show for Oh, yeah, folks. And that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank New Jersey 12 congressional candidate in the House of Representatives, Gregg Mele, for a great conversation tonight. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in here. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode, folks. It goes a long way in supporting fearless, independent journalism. That's right. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. And, of course, look at your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud. Download Jersey First and take it with you anywhere at any time. We appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing. Folks, again, you're snowed in. You're not going anywhere tonight or tomorrow. Share the replays. Share the other episodes, folks. It, again, shows your support for fearless, independent journalism, courtesy of Real Talk here on Jersey First TV. Folks, always remember, again, we're leading the way here, educating and advocating for the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. It's always Real Talk. Check your local listings for start times every single week here on Monday nights, as we're working hard for you here on the Jersey First Television Network. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, I'll continue to be the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, again, stay indoors, please. Look after your elderly neighbors, kids. Please be careful shoveling out there. Don't overexert yourselves. Don't put yourselves in any danger. And again, folks, stay warm. And we'll see you next week here as we close out the month of February. And we'll see you next week during the month of March, folks. Yes, we'll be having some fun during the month of March. A lot of great guests. Again, folks, we appreciate you tuning in here and sharing your Monday night viewing with us here on the Jersey First Television Network. Again, later on this weekend, folks, please party responsibly. Please walk carefully. Again, there might be some ice and snow on the ground. Walk carefully, tread carefully, and look out for everybody when you're driving. Any kids, again, as kids will get back to school sometime this week, please be careful out there, folks. Again, thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.